Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 15 of the Rock Podcast. For those about to pod, we salute you. In this episode, we go back in time to 1985 in My Year in Rock. We take a look at the recent rock news. We look in the back of the wardrobe for hidden gems. And as we approach American Independence Day, we discuss our favourite musicians from across the pond. If you like what you hear, leave us a glowing review on Apple Podcasts. Check us out on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at FTATpod. So without further ado, here's Mr. AOR himself, my podcast buddy, Mr. Brian Maley. Brian, how about that? That was a big intro for you. How about that?
That was Mr. AOR.
Mr. AOR himself.
Don't stop believing.
That's right. I say 1985 because, of course, that was the year that the greatest film, we're digressing already, but the greatest film, one of the greatest films, in my opinion, was released, which was Back to the Future, of course.
85? Oh,
it
man.
was 85, yeah.
I remember. Do you remember the cinema you went to see it in?
I didn't see it in the cinema. I watched it on video. And so we got it on video a year later, and I watched it 3 times in a weekend. I think I watched it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When I had a very short time at university, unlike you. And we got hold of a video copy in the days when they were like £75 each. And I watched it 3 times a weekend. So I didn't watch it at the cinema. Did you? I bet you watched it at the Limavady Odeon or something like that.
I
didn't.
No, I went to see it in Coleraine. My dad took me to see it. And I remember it very well. And obviously I remember obviously the soundtrack, Huey Lewis, and then the Eddie Van Halen playing the card, playing the cassette and all of Eddie's guitar bits.
Yeah, it's classic.
You watch it. It's one of those Wizard of Oz films. You know, every Christmas, but Back to the Future's one you'll just stick on, and then you'll go, I might just watch Back to the Future 2, and then you might go, I'll maybe watch Back to the Future 3, and then go, oh, why did I bother watching that one? I'll go back to the original.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's a good film. Anyway,
Brilliant.
We digress. So, what's been happening in your world of rock news, young Brian?
World of rock news. Well, do you know the way you hear a single or you see a song in your Spotify list and it says new release and you go, I don't know if I want any of that. Miley Cyrus has recorded a version of Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. And she's got some big hitters in on it. So she's got Elton John, Robert Trujillo from Metallica plays bass on it, Chad Smith, who may or may not feature later on in another part of the show. Andrew Watt, well, I'm assuming it's Andrew Watt playing the guitar, and Yo-Yo Ma, who will be playing classical cello. And I saw the single and I went, Miley Cyrus, Nothing Else Matter. It's fabulous. It's great. Even Andrew Watt's guitar solo at the end out trumps the hamster. Mr. Kirk Hamster's solo at the end. It is brilliant. Give it a listen. Unfortunately, if you do like Miley Cyrus on Spotify, then you'll just get the rest of the stuff. But that was literally just released. Great tune.
I heard that.
Have you heard it?
Yeah. She's got quite a nice kind of rocky voice, hasn't she?
I was impressed.
And it's part of that whole, it's been 30 years since the Black Album came out. So it's part of that celebration of that. And I think, and I should have, if I'd have known you were going to talk about it, I should have researched it, of course. But as you know, I don't prepare for these things at all. One little bit. But I think it's part of a celebration and maybe other cover versions like a tribute or anyway. But it's a good version. It's a really good song. And she's done it. It's not just her. She says there's a whole multitude of different people on it, but they've done a really good version of it. I like it.
It's nice.
I like it. Yeah, it's good. Good shout. I like it.
Good releases. Also, in terms of new releases over the last couple of weeks, is Mammoth WVH, which is the debut studio album from Wolfgang Van Halen. Came out on June the 11th, and we loved the single when it came out. It was very, I think the video, I remember on a previous show, Matt, you said it was quite poignant, where there lots of home video footage of Wolfie and his dad. I think the single was Distance.
That's right.
And the album's come out. I listened to it straight off the bat when it was released, and I have to say, on the back of the singles that came off, I had high expectations of the album, and he didn't disappoint. Really, really strong album. I know we're in the middle of the year, and we're probably looking at contenders for album of the year. Wolfie's debut album is up there for me. Have you had a chance to have a listen to it yet yourself?
Absolutely, yeah. I've listened to it a couple of times, and it's great. It is good. I urge everyone to go and have a listen to it, because it's quite. It feels quite. He's such a good singer as well. He's a good singer.
Great
good
drummer.
Songs, quite melodic songs, quite heavy as well, but really good songs.
Yeah.
And I think we've all got a lot of time for him, because he's been through a lot. Bless him, isn't he? He's obviously he comes from a hugely talented family, and that's clearly rubbed off on him. Wolfgang Van Halen, son of Eddie Van Halen, nephew of Alex Van Halen, of course. Yeah. And I think we're certainly championing him on this podcast for sure, because it's so good, and good on him. I don't know whether you've looked into this, Brian, but I know he played all the instruments on the single Distance. Who's playing on the album? Is it all him, or
I think it's all him. He recorded it over a couple of years, so 2019 and 2020, and it really was the last time Van Halen went out on tour, I think in 2012, 2013. Mm-hmm. Whenever they came back off tour, Wolf was just starting to write material himself. He pulled the material over a long period of time. And I think what our American listeners are going to get a good treat, a lovely treat, is Wolfie's going to be going out supporting Guns N' Roses on their next tour. And I'm the way you look at an American tour and you go, oh, it'd be nice if Wolfie came along to the GNR show.
Or if we flew to America and went to see that tour, Brian.
Yeah, that would be nice. We could do a special. We could do a Wolfie special. Maybe get an interview with Wolfie. Go and see Axl.
Yeah, we could. But it's unlikely. Because we haven't got a budget, have we?
Ba-boom. Ba-boom. I know I put a damper on things, but it's true. The light out of my dreams.
I'm sorry, no. Anyway.
What about news for you?
Great shout. Well, you remember on the last podcast, the ongoing saga of the artifacts that belonged to Kurt Cobain. So the saga continues.
What else have you found?
No, I haven't found anything, but I thought I'd tell everyone, our 12 listeners, what happened with the auction of the self-portrait, which, as I said at the time, looked like it'd been done by a 5-year-old with their eyes shut. It was truly awful. However, someone somewhere decided it was worth paying $281,000 for this self-portrait drawn in, I think I said at the time, about 1992, a couple of years before he passed away, before he died. And it sold for, nigh on $300,000, which I thought was just unbelievable. But you said it, and I probably didn't appreciate it quite as much, in that something of that provenance.
not Covenants, not David Covenants.
Not David Covenants, but that provenance. It clearly got some value. So yeah, amazing. So yeah, I thought I'd let everyone know that. We should probably put a picture of it up on the Facebook page and on Twitter at FTAT Pod, to show everyone what this person got for their $281,000.
That's a lot of money.
It's a huge amount.
It's a lot of money.
But anyway, there you go. So if anyone's got any Kurt Cobain memorabilia, artifacts, locks of hair, whatever, lying around in their loft or whatever, then dig it out, because you never know what it might be worth.
Yeah.
There you go, Brian.
Yeah. Wow.
There you go. Right. Something else that I wanted to just mention. A couple of things. So I'm quite excited about this because I do like a rock autobiography, as you know. So Ronnie Dio, before he died, was working on his autobiography, and his wife, Wendy Dio, put the finishing touches to it, let's say. So that's coming out during this year, I believe, the Ronnie Dio autobiography, which I think would be a good read. I don't expect too much kind of too many revelations and that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. And the other one which I read about, which I think will be more combustible, as it were, and with more fireworks, is Roger Waters, the former Pink Floyd bass player and main kind of driving force behind that band from the early days through to about 84, 5, I think it was, is bringing out his memoirs as opposed to his autobiography. I'm not sure what the difference is, but anyway. And that's sure to be packed full of interesting facts and thoughts on the whole relationship with Dave Gilmour and the rest of the band. So, yeah, so I don't know when it's going to come out. I just read that he's been working on it during lockdown, and we shall see how that plays out. But so looking forward to both those autobiographies.
He's an angry young man, isn't he, Roger? He's an angry young man.
I don't think he's very young anymore.
I love him on social media because obviously, and again in the news over the last couple of weeks, they're releasing new versions and new mixes of Animals album.
That's right.
And I think they've been trying to agree the wording of the liner notes, etc. And David wanted to say something, and Roger had something else. And I think what they did was they agreed on what the liner notes were going to be, which is not what Roger had intended. So then Roger went up onto social media and went, right then, just to let you know, Pink Floyd, here's my liner notes. So he kind of went, I'm going to tell you what I would have thought anyway. So it's do you know what? It's a real shame actually, because I thought a beautiful way to finish off Pink Floyd with the four of them together at Live 8, where they played amazingly well. And you kind of go, what a nice way to bookend the Pink Floyd story at the time with the four, sadly, Syd Barrett's no longer here, but the four main members of Pink Floyd got back together and did a great show. That to me would have been a lovely bookend, and it's just a shame that over the years, it seems to have gone back into a degree of acrimony, which is, it's a shame.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else, Brian?
Coverdale. Got to mention.
Oh, yes. What about him?
David has announced that Whitesnake will cease to be a touring band after the next tour. But I think he's got lots of irons in the fires and projects. And I love Whitesnake. Every time he comes back round again, I always go, I'm never going to go and see him again. And I will go and see him on his farewell tour. I just think David's one of the greats. And the albums that we love. So when he tours, good luck. And hopefully we get a chance to see him. So good luck, David, darling.
Indeed.
In a Northern Ireland accent.
Indeed. I did read about that. I heard him being interviewed. And he's always a very colourful character, very good interviewee.
Yes.
And he said something on the lines of, it's not my voice. It's just the sheer touring. I've been doing this years and years. He always says years.
Years and years.
Years, because he shows his North Yorkshire roots.
Yes.
And I think all of us are like, yeah, good on you, David. You've given us a great canon of work. Time to call it a day.
His memoirs would be good, mind.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's news. That was the news.
That was news.
That was the news. That was what caught our eyes and ears the last few weeks. So in the last podcast, I set you the year 1985 to take us back to in true DeLorean, Back to the Future, Marty McFly style, and
well, you're going to pepper the show with Back to the Future references, aren't you?
I may do. Yeah. I may not. I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
But now you mentioned it, I probably will. So anyway, without further ado, Brian, take us back to 1985. So what were you doing in 1985? You're probably not quite at university yet, were you? You hadn't started your.
No, I was 16 years of age, so I'd have been packing my bags. Obviously, yes. I've been packing my bags ready to go. So I was 6.
Hang on a minute. Yeah. So you packed your bags 2 years before you went. That's preparation. I think that's planning.
That is,
I like that.
Yeah, but you know me. On our show, I'm the planner. I'm the organizer. I'm the,
Wow. But 2 years before, that's very impressive. Anyway, so 1985, you were 16, which is a good age.
It's a good age. It's a good age. It was good age. I was desperately trying to grow my hair long. Mm-hmm. Desperately. Unfortunately, as you know me well, my hair grows sideways. My hair grows sideways. So unfortunately, as I was trying to look like probably David Lee Roth or Vivian Campbell. Sir Vivian.
Yes. Sir Vivian, of course.
I unfortunately started to look more and more like, my hair looked more like the keyboard player out of Aha. So me and Rockwise at 16, the image was willing, or sorry, the heart was willing, but the image wasn't, sadly. So so I remember that very well. 85, as well as Back to the Future, 85's gig-wise, Live Aid. Live Aid was was kind of the beginning, the middle, and the end of gigs in 1985. A lot of rock was well represented at Live Aid. We obviously we could do probably a whole show on Queen, but Judas Priest, it was great to see Ozzy back together with Black Sabbath. So there's a lot of big ticks for me. I got to see lots and lots of bands live for the first time, and then obviously the cacophony of noise that Led Zeppelin made at about 3 or 4 in the morning, and my little heart sank. And yes, I got to see Led Zeppelin live, very sleepy on a Sunday morning, going, I thought everybody said this band were great.
Yeah. Now, it wasn't their best. It wasn't their greatest hour, their finest hour, was it? I think by their own admission, it was, roughly put together. But yeah, you're right. I think it was one of those things that you probably remember where you were when you watched it, and who your favourite acts were, and so on. It was an amazing day. I do remember watching it. My favourite. I remember Queen, of course. I think everyone remembers the Queen, whatever it was, 22 minutes of just pure gold.
Yes.
And, I think you can still picture it now. It's just an incredible performance, which was really, came in a way against the odds, wasn't it? Because they were not at their peak in 85. And Freddie was, having his ups and downs, let's say, and so on. And they came out and just, not just stole the show, but probably stole the decade in terms of, or even the last 40 years in terms of
live
performances, just in that little short period of time. I do remember being particularly impressed by U2. You didn't mention them, but U2 were quite an unknown.
They were,
unknown quantity then, I guess. Yeah. They were. I think they just released the Unforgettable Fire. Obviously, they had War Out and Boy in October. So some, great albums, good solid albums. Yeah. But that performance, again, sometimes gets overlooked. But I thought, again, that was also really, a very eye-catching and very memorable performance. But anyway, back to you, Brian. 85. Yes.
So 1985, and one of the bands, I'm going to kick off. Great year for music for me. And there was a couple of genres. In 1985, I'm 16. I'm starting to play the guitar less badly. And around this time, the first album I'll shout out was a band that actually played Live Aid. Didn't play it, unfortunately, with the singer that recorded the album. And I think this is a good rock album. It'll be interesting to hear from our listeners what they think of this album is the Power Station. So the Power Station album, which was obviously John Taylor and Andy Taylor from Duran Duran, Tony Thompson from Chic, who obviously played with Led Zeppelin at Live Aid, and Robert Palmer. So the four of them, I think Duran Duran were on a hiatus, and they went in and they recorded, it's an 8 or 9 track album, and it's fabulous. Obviously the big single was Get It On, Bang, Bang a Gong, the T-Rex cover. It's a great album. Murderous, Some Like It Hot. So my first 85, I'm sticking up there as a great album that I remember buying at the time was Power Station by Power Station. Does that meet the rock criteria for you, Matt?
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember at the time. I remember the performance, and you're right. You reminded me when we were talking about it. Michael Debar, that's how you pronounce his name, did the vocals. I don't know where Robert Palmer was, but yeah, Michael Debar did the vocals at Live Aid. And yeah, I remember watching that performance and thinking, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
And Andy Taylor of Duran Duran, he is a rock guy. I mean, he's produced, we've talked about him producing Thunder and writing songs with them. He's got his own sort of rock career and so on. But yeah, certainly. Yeah. And Robert Palmer, God rest his soul, was always one of those singers that was on the cusp of being, probably in the same, mentioned in the same breath as, say, a Paul Rodgers or a Gillan or a Coverdale, let's say.
Yeah, I agree.
Had a great voice and went down obviously the more commercial route, but good shout. Good shout.
And then second album I had was the Lord Yngwie J. Malmsteen. Yngwie released his second solo album called Marching Out. And if you ever needed confirmation that Yngwie was from Sweden, one of the big singles off that album was called I Am a Viking. But Jeff Scott Soto's on the album. I think Jeff was about 15 or 16. He was so young when he recorded the vocals on that album. But Marching Out by Yngwie J. Malmsteen was a great... I started to get into... I think this is when rock started to go a bit really shreddy. So you had, you think about all of the guitarists at the time and what was coming through Kerrang. I remember Chastain, Dave Chastain and Vinnie Moore and Greg Howe, all of these, Jason Becker, Marty Friedman, all the guitarists were coming out of the Shrapnel record label and just shredding all over the place. So, but melodically, that's a great album. So Marching Out was probably my first introduction into Yngwie. Great vocals, great songs of that neoclassical, diddly 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 type tunes. Third one, and I toyed with it. I toyed with whether this was rock or not, but in terms of great albums for 1985, I couldn't not include Brothers in Arms. The big single Brothers in Arms, big singles from that in terms of Money for Nothing, the title track itself, and it was probably one of the first albums that came out on CD, if I remember, and it just sold by the absolute crate load. And then the final one I had, Matt, and then I'll do some notable mentions as well too, is I had to include Sacred Heart by Dio.
Yep.
And it's a funny album, that one, because it starts off with a live, it's like a live treatment of the track King of Rock and Roll. And it was probably the end of the trilogy. It was the album of the original Dio band, and you can just see the first two albums are absolute rock classics. The third album's got some, it's got Hungry for Heaven. It's a very melodic album. Yeah. Like Vivian's riffing all over it, and the rest of the band are fantastic, and Ronnie James Dio was just amazing. But that to me was I remember buying that album and the whole. You might remember the name. They had like a dragon. Was it like?
Yep.
Derek, was it Derek
Denzel.
the Dragon? Denzel.
Denzel the Dragon. Yeah, I went to that tour.
Did
actually.
you? All right.
I did. Hammersmith Odeon. It was a year after.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had this. It was called Denzel. I think it was called Denzel the Dragon. You're right. It was huge. It was like this 18-foot. Because in those days, it was all about in the heavy metal rock sort of arena. I think Kiss had probably started it, and Maiden had taken it on with their ostentatious stage productions and so on. But yeah, Dio had this unbelievable sort of just dragon.
Yeah.
You know, like something you might see at an amusement park, about 18 foot high. I'm not sure it breathed fire. It probably did. I can't remember that long ago, but yeah.
Notable mentions for me in the year, Matt, would be I loved UFO's album Misdemeanor. A lot of people talk about that being very much a Phil Mogg solo album, because there's not a lot of the band. You know, it was. I always loved the name of the guitarist on that album. What was it? Atomic Tommy M. And Paul Gray on bass, who was in The Damned. So it was kind of it was UFO. But I remember seeing them on the Tube. Magnum came back with On the Storyteller's Night. Vandenberg brought out Alibi as an album, and Under Lock and Key by Dokken, again in that shreddy vein, but with the melodic vocals. So 85 was a great year. I could go on and on and on. It was such a good year. How about you? What have I left any good albums for you?
Yeah, no, loads. Loads. Thanks very much. Loads. I actually saw UFO on that tour again at Hammersmith Odeon. Yeah, it was a strange kind of line up for UFO, but yeah, good all the same. Yeah, quite a lot of albums that year. Like a couple of live albums. Live After Death, of course, the first and probably the best of the Iron Maiden live albums, in my opinion. Worldwide Live by the Scorpions.
Yes.
Their second and probably not their best live album came out then. Power Windows by Rush, great album, part of that 80s kind of keyboardy era, fantastic stuff. I can't not mention a couple of more sort of, let's say,
mainstream.
No, I can't think of a way of explaining this. Also, other worthy mentions: the first Sisters of Mercy album, First and Last and Always, worth a listen.
Okay.
And also, This Is the Sea by the Waterboys. Not generally the type of acts that we would discuss, but still, for that time, they almost kind of capture that era, a pre-goth, sort of post-punk, getting all sociological here. Yeah. Music, good stuff, great stuff.
But isn't it interesting? We've talked about this at various points when you've picked an interesting year, 1985, right in the middle of the 80s. And when you talk about that post-punk gothic, we could go into Killing Joke, Fields of the Nephilim, all that kind of stuff. But one of the genres that really stepped out of the underground in 85 was thrash. Now, something, a genre of music, I've seen a few thrash bands, and I've seen Metallica whenever they were in their thrashier days. But you think about Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax brought out Spreading the Disease, Megadeth brought out Killing's My Business, Slayer dropped Hell Awaits, and I always remember in Kerrang! Exodus, the Exodus cover, because it was all scary, and the album was called Bonded by Blood. So 85, we're right in the middle of the decade, and a lot of subgenres were just like coming out, you know. So yeah,
it's a great shout. We should probably do a complete podcast on the 80s, because there was so much going on from start to finish. You had New Album through to grunge. I know we touched upon it once or twice, and then, as you say, everything in between.
Yeah,
thrash and
Milli Vanilli,
who were worthy of a complete show on their own right, of course. Right.
So that was 85.
That was good. I enjoyed that. I was 10 in 85, of course. I was very young. Thanks for asking.
You said on the last show.
Oh, that's true.
You said on the last show, no more talking about years.
I should stop giving out my name, address, and
Exactly.
so on.
I may in 1985 have stopped wearing my Meatloaf denim jacket at this point. I probably.
I was cultivating my first mullet in '85. Actually, I'd gone from I was several years older than you. 4 years older. I was 20 in 1985. I was in my second year at Hatfield Poly, and I was cultivating a very nice mullet. Thank you very much for asking. Which I will share pictures at some point. Right, shall we move on?
No, we can't move on because you need a year.
That's what I meant.
I need to give you a year.
Okay.
So the year. Mm-hmm. I kind of need. We need some like countdown music. Boo. I'm going to give you 1991.
Okay. Thank you. I shall take that.
Excellent.
And party. I was a bit early for take that, wasn't it?
I couldn't comment either, and I wouldn't. I could turn around and say, yeah, well, no, it wasn't 1991. Take that, and party came out in 1993, and then I get blasted.
You would.
Everybody's now got to go onto Google and go, did Brian really know that Take That and Party was in 1993? I don't. It's a complete guess. Let's move on.
I think we need to. So we, as you know, we like to celebrate these events during the course of the year because it gives us an opportunity to talk about stuff we know about. And with the 4th of July, American Independence Day, fast approaching. Thank you. I thought it'd be a nice idea, much as we did with our Best of English, which was around St. George's Day.
It was indeed.
Which we haven't mentioned for a while, have we, St. George's Day?
And it was your birthday.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be a nice idea if we did a similar thing based on American musicians who we've seen over the years. That's the key prerequisite.
Yeah, yes, and I know.
Looking at the classic band lineup of bass drums, rhythm guitar or keyboards / and lead guitar and vocals, I thought it'd be a good idea for us to talk about our favourite American artists.
Our friends across the pond.
Exactly. That's what I said in the intro. Our friends across the pond. So,
yes.
And we will come to our band names at the end.
I'm prepared this time.
Oh, yeah?
There's going to be no sensational Brian Mealy thingy. I've come to play this time.
I can't wait. I really can't wait for that. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got one as well. It's not Matt Sabbath. We've done that one. I've got one. I'll probably change it during the course of this discussion. Right. So let's start with the man at the back, the man on the tubs, the tub thumper, the drummer. So who have you got on your? Let's go with who you've got on your list. And then
Thank you.
Your number one.
Oh man,
tough one, isn't it?
It's absolutely tough. So yeah, who've I been lucky enough to see American drummers? So, and this is not all of them, but the notable mentions are Stuart Copeland from The Police, Chad Smith from. I saw him in Chickenfoot. I've not seen him in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, so thank you for getting the tickets for Shepherd's Bush Empire.
You're welcome.
Alex Van Halen, Mike Portnoy, Sir Thomas of Aldridge, Denny Carmassi.
Oh my God.
Who I got to see. I never saw Heart and I never saw Montrose, but I saw Denny playing in Whitesnake.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was in 94. And then a drummer who's very, very close to my heart, Vinnie Colaiuta, who plays with Sting. Vinnie's amazing drummer. And the one drummer who I can't put in my list is Dave Grohl, because Dave Grohl's a guitarist in Foos. I never saw him in Nirvana or whatever. So those are my notable mentions. Those are my drummers list. Do you want to give me your drummer list and then we pick? Our respectives.
Very similar, actually, to a lot of those. I would add Tico Torres from.
I've seen Tico. Yeah.
Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Good, solid rock drummer.
Oh, he's fab.
I love a bit of Tico. And I have actually seen Dave Grohl drumming, not with Nirvana, I might add, but at the I'm sort of stretching like a peacock now because I know you don't like me mentioning the fact I saw
those damn crows.
Them that you put me off there. What are they called? Them crooked vultures. Yeah, them crooked vultures, which was a super group.
Super group
by Dave Grohl on drums, Josh Homme on guitar, and John Paul Jones on bass. So, and I would add Vinny Appice, who's always good value.
Yes,
plays with Last in Line now, of course.
Yeah,
and effortless. I've watched him play, and I like watching drummers. And he must either use humongous like tree-sized drumsticks because he hardly hits the drums, which he appears not to. But the sound that comes out of him is just huge. So, who have you gone for then, Brian? You're to set the scene, the back of the stage, behind the kit.
I'm torn between two.
Oh Jesus! We ain't got all night. Just choose one.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Vinny Appice.
Well, good shout for reasons I've just mentioned.
Yeah.
Good solid foundation.
First drummer I saw.
Right.
And I remember the tree trunks and I'm going to go with Vinny Appice.
Okay.
I could have gone with Portnoy, but I'm going with Vinny. I'm going with my heart. Vinny.
Yeah. No, good
How
shout.
about you?
Good shout. Well, I'm going to mix it up a little bit because I did think about Mike Portnoy, who is phenomenal as a drummer, of course. But I'm going to go with Dave Grohl because I love him. I love Dave Grohl. Who doesn't love Dave Grohl? And I'm going to put him in as a drummer.
Yes.
Because you give him the mic between songs. He'll give you plenty of stories and jokes and everything. Yeah. And anyone who's ever seen the Foo Fighters, I know we're not talking about him in the sense of a guitar singer at the moment, but anyone who's ever seen the Foo Fighters, and I've seen them a couple of times, they are fantastic live.
Yeah.
But you sort of look forward to the end of the songs to hear what Dave's got to say.
Yeah.
Because he's so funny.
He is. He's great frontman.
We've talked about Kiss Guy before. We've talked about, all the fans that he gets on stage. He's lovely. So Dave Grohl on the drums for me.
Good.
So that brings us to the other half of the rhythm section. The man on the 4-string, or woman on the 4-string bass guitar.
Could be 5 strings.
Or could be five strings. Or even when I saw Cheap Trick a few years ago, and I'm sure their bass player had a 12-string bass?
Yes, it's a 12-string Hamer bass that he uses. Often used the 12-string basses can often be used by Mr. Doug Pinnock from a well-known band called King's X.
12-string bass.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's really a case of how low can you go with that. But I knew you'd know. You're like a walking Wikipedia, aren't you? When
yes.
You should really think about doing a rock-based podcast.
Exactly.
Because you know so much stuff about rock. Anyway, so
however, can we just say that there are other bass guitar brands that are out there as well as Hamer if you wish to use them.
Yeah, well said. We don't want to nail our colours to any particular bass.
We don't at all.
Coloured flag, do we?
We don't.
Right. So you got on the bass then.
Oh, right? Man. This was... right. Okay, on the bass. I'm going to start with Leland Sklar.
Oh, bloody. Who's he?
Leland Sklar. You know the long-haired, bearded bloke that plays with Phil Collins?
Do you know what? The minute I said it, I thought, I know who he is. Yeah.
Leland Sklar. But Leland Sklar played in, wait for it, Toto. So when Mike Porcaro passed away, or when he was ill, but just before he passed away, Leland Sklar came in and sat in with Toto, and I got to see Toto with Leland Sklar. So Leland Sklar was on my list as a bass player. I then had Stu Hamm. Stu Hamm's one of these virtuoso guitarists who played alongside Joe Satriani, amazing guitar player, or amazing bass player. I then had Nathan East, who obviously played with Eric Clapton.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Of course.
Exactly. and then there was this little known chap, William Sheehan, I think's his name. So, and then there was bass players that I had on my list, and I went, oh, I've got to have Flea. Oh, I've got to have Flea's amazing. And I went, oh, I haven't seen them. And Tony Levin out of Peter Gabriel's band, and I went, oh, I haven't seen Peter Gabriel. So I had to scratch a few off the list. Those are my bass players for consideration.
Okay. I'm going to add to that, and I've added him to the list because I think he's got one of the best names in rock. It's Patrick Badger from Extreme. Oh, I love Patrick Badger. Good bass player, great singer, and great name, Patrick Badger. I'm also going to add, just for novelty value, Gene Simmons from Kiss. Because you could, it's good,
Him and Dave Grohl would be hilarious, wouldn't they?
That would be
There's a rhythm
fantastic
section.
Yeah, can you imagine? They'd get on like a house on fire.
They would.
And who else have we got? Duff McKagan, who I saw with Velvet Revolver.
Good shot.
Michael Anthony, of course. The lovely Michael Anthony, who also is a fantastic singer. And we mentioned Billy Sheehan, of course. So you're going to go for him, Bri?
I'm going with Billy Sheehan. Boom.
Yeah, good shout. Good shout indeed. Well, I'm going to go with Michael Anthony because I love Michael Anthony. He's one of those lovable characters. Obviously, the bass player for a long time with Van Halen. Great singer as well. Yeah. And, you look back at some of those Van Halen songs and albums that he was on, and a lot of the backing vocals were down to him. Good bass player too. Not too flashy, but really complimented Eddie Van Halen. So I'm going to go with, for a lot of reasons, Mr. Michael Anthony on the bass.
And the vocals.
And vocals.
And the vocals as well.
Occasional backing vocals, which is very important in my band because we're an all-singing band. We all like to have a sing. We're all going to share the vocal duties as well.
Matt, can I just say something?
Yes.
You're not in the band. You're not American.
No, I'm not.
No, you were just talking. You were talking in the and we're. I thought.
They. Well, I mean, it's my band. I'm going to.
I was just getting jealous. I'm going to be
booking the gigs, and I've got. I don't know exactly where our first gig's going to be. I'll come on to that later.
Okay, fair enough.
Rhythm guitar and or keyboards, or even both. Remember last time I went for Paul Raymond.
What a shout that was! What a shout! Oh man.
So who are you looking at rhythm guitar wise, young Brian? You all right there? You okay?
I am.
You in pain?
No. I'm going to tell you, you. Please don't laugh at me. So you're right. We're going to split the guitarists down as rhythm and lead. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. So the first guitarist that was on my list for rhythm was Mike Campbell from the Tom Petty band. I love Mike Campbell.
And now a Fleetwood Mac, I think.
And now a Fleetwood Mac, exactly. I then, from a rhythm guitar perspective, probably one of the most underrated guitarists of his generation is Izzy Stradlin from GNR.
Yes. Good shout.
Yep.
Great shout. Yeah.
Yeah, Izzy Stradlin. When you think all the plaudits go to Slash and to me, I would have loved to have seen the original Guns N' Roses, that the Appetite lineup. And they never were the same once Izzy left. Never were the same. So I think he was a little bit of magic sauce, the glue that kind of, and both him and Axl were quite tight as a thing. Yeah. So I'll stop waffling. Now I'm going to push the envelope here, and you can laugh at me if you want. I actually had as one of my rhythm guitarists, Satch. I had Joe Satriani as a rhythm guitarist because when we went to see Chickenfoot, Joe Satriani sat in the pocket. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are not watching our video, my co-host is now shaking his head at me and he's going, "You can't get away with that, you idiot."
No,
you just can't.
I'm not allowing that. That's a yellow card offence.
Yellow card offence. Yeah. Okay, so you've played. So my two rhythm guitarists are either Mike Campbell or Izzy Stradlin. I would have loved to have put in Joe Satriani or Noonan Betancourt, because Nuno's an amazing rhythm player, but you're not letting me have any of that at all. So those my two.
Careful. 2 yellow cards.
Okay.
Sending off offence.
What about you? What about you then?
Oh, okay. So I've got a few, actually, as you might expect. So an eclectic mix, actually. I've got Scott Ian, lovely Scott Ian from Anthrax. Talked about the thrash earlier. Of course, Scott Ian is very much one of those kind of thrash icons. Lovely guy, really good on social media. Massive AC/DC fan, so check him out on social media.
Yeah.
Or YouTube. I've got Brad Whitford, who is from Aerosmith, of course. And again, one of those kind of unsung heroes. Does a bit of lead work, but basically kind of sits in the pocket. Yeah, fantastic rhythm guitarist. Quite underrated, and really probably at the heart of Aerosmith. I've also got one David Grohl, who we talked about earlier, because he is a rhythm guitar player. Again, he's more rhythm than lead. But I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to tell you who I chose.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with one certain James Hetfield from Metallica, who I love. I mean, again, you got, as I was saying earlier, everyone's a singer in my band. And, of course, James Hetfield, lead singer, rhythm guitarist, fantastic rhythm guitarist. Again, hugely underrated. All downstrokes. You'll know this as a guitarist. Mm-hmm. Very few upstrokes. But a really solid, quality singer and rhythm guitarist. So, yeah, I'm going for James Hetfield from Metallica as my rhythm guitarist. There you go. Get out of that, Brian. Well, who have you got?
I thought you said you didn't do any preparation for these shows.
None whatsoever. I've done loads. I've got loads of lists on your arm of people. It's really tough. You've got to choose someone.
I'm going to go because he is truly a rhythm guitar player, and I'm going to go with Izzy Stradlin. I really liked him as a guitar player. I think he's nice to go for a nice player, like a good rhythm player.
Yeah, and good hats as well.
Good hats,
exactly.
Well. Exactly.
I used to think, good hats, which is important. I think it's like a smell in a venue. If you can pull off a good hat, then you're laughing, aren't you? When you wear a lot of hats, don't you? But yeah,
I do.
He wore good hats.
I wear a good hat.
Right, so that brings us to we're getting towards the front of the stage. I can hear myself from the last one talking about this. It brings us towards the front of the stage. The shredder.
Yes.
The lead guitarist. The foot on the monitor, head down, histrionics, you name it, dive bombs, whammy bar. I'll do. I'm going to stop now. Lead guitarist. Now, who's on your list, Brian?
So, ladies and gentlemen, tune in next week to next week's 1 hour special where Brian goes through his 125 lead guitarist in his American band.
Yeah, I hear you.
This one, oh man.
Tough, innit?
Man. And I think we were, I was thinking about this, and of course you're talking about the great American guitar players, and Mr. Smug Pants here went, I know how I'm going to beat Matt. I'm going to put Jimi Hendrix down on the first one on my list.
Great shout.
And then I went, I was born in 1969 and Jimmy passed away in 1971. So I didn't get to see Jimmy. So Jimmy came off my list. That was me. So look, I'm going to précis this down to some of the luckily amazing guitarists that I have seen. Prince, Neil Schon, Slash, Satriani, Paul Gilbert. I love Paul Gilbert. Noonan Betancourt that I've mentioned earlier. And somebody who I love dearly is Richie Kotzen. I love Richie as a guitar player and as a singer. And a certain Mr. EVH, Mr. Eddie Van Halen. And I'm going to cut to this chase for me straight away. I'm going to go for Eddie Van Halen as my lead guitar player. Boom.
Yep.
How about you?
Boom, indeed. Well, it's hard to compete with that. I had on my list also Mark Tremonti, we mentioned him earlier. Nita Strauss, she plays in Alice Cooper's band, fantastic guitarist. Richie Sambora, good guitarist. Great singer too. We touched upon him on the Hidden Gems a few episodes ago. Great singer, good guitarist. And Joe Bonamassa, of course, similar.
Yeah.
Good guitarist. Not everyone's cup of tea, Joe Bonamassa, but on the Spotify, I'm only saying Joe Bonamassa so you can put India Mountain Time on the Spotify playlist for this. which I had played. My wife and I had played at our wedding. We like that song so much. Well, those two songs actually. Yeah. India Mountain Time. So it's a tough one. I'm going to go with Nuno Bettencourt of Extreme, and I tell you why.
I love your band.
Well, it's shaping up nicely, isn't it? Another great singer guitarist, of course. But I mean, probably my favourite guitar solo, and there's loads of guitar solos. But maybe not my favourite. One of my favourites is his solo on "Get the Funk Out," which therefore you're gonna have to put it on the Spotify playlist, Brian.
My pleasure.
But he is just. I know we talk about Randy Rhoads, who I didn't see, and Eddie and Paul Gilbert. I love too. Fantastic guitarist, Mr. Big, and all the others you mentioned, Richie Kotzen, Slash, and so on. But Nuno Bettencourt is just the real deal. He looks good. He sounds good. Fantastic guitar player. Good songwriter too. Very much one of the key members of Extreme, along with Gary Sharon, of course, and the aforementioned Patrick Badger. I don't like saying Patrick Badger. I'll say it one more time, Patrick Badger. So I'm going with Nuno Bettencourt for my lead guitarist. So that brings us, my friend, to the front person, the singer. And I was thinking about this actually, because there's quite a distinction, particularly in American singers, between a front man and a singer. And quite often, particularly more in the US, you get quite often the front man is also a guitarist too. Whereas we talked a lot about the British front women,
yep,
as being more, standalone singer, Gillan, Plant, Coverdale, Rogers. I mean, Paul Rogers can play guitar, of course, but quite often on the list I was looking at, there's a lot of front. There's very few that actually stand without a guitar. Interestingly enough, that's not by the by. It's more of a sort of sociological observation. But there you go. Just sort of throw it in. So who's on your list as the front person, Brian?
Mr. Hagar.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bon Jovi.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Axl Rose.
Yep.
Chris Cornell. Eddie Vedder.
Oh yeah, great show.
Miles Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Ann Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Springsteen.
Oh my goodness.
And Ronnie James Dio.
Right. Okay.
Give me yours.
Wow. I'm quite stunned by that. I mean, that's just something, isn't it? Right. I've got in addition. Well, I'm going to just go with. I've got Ronnie Dio. I saw, as I said earlier, 83 first. Second Donington, I went to Chris Cornell, the legend of Soundgarden and Audio Slave. I've also got Brent Smith, who we talked about before, the singer of Shinedown, who I is one of those where there's a lot to him going on. The good singer. Check out their version of the Skidder classic Simple Man. I mean, he's got an amazing voice and a real ringmaster. Everyone go and see Shinedown when they come to the UK again because they're fantastic. So I've got Corey Glover of Living Colour. I've got Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm. I've got Gary Sharon. I've got Eric Martin from Mr. Big.
Man.
Steven Tyler of Aerosmith.
I've never seen Aerosmith. You're pulling out some good guys who I haven't seen.
I've got Kelly Hansen from Foreigner, and I know you've seen him. An amazing singer, great singer. And to fill the boots of Lou Gramm was a feat in its own right, and he hits those notes almost as well, if not better, than Lou Gramm. I've got a real good one for you. Brad Delp, who was the singer of Boston. And so it's Brad Delp. So I'm going to tell you a story about
Have you seen Boston?
No, I never saw Boston. So in 2005, my friends Kelvin and Richard and I went to Boston in the US. And Kelvin had done a bit of research, which I never do, as you know. And he said, there's a Beatles tribute band called Beetlejuice playing in on the edge of Boston. Oh, great. Yeah, we should go. Yeah, we should certainly go because Brad Delp from Boston, as in More Than a Feeling, Brad Delp, and a huge seminal album and so on, is singing with Beetlejuice. So we went and it was great. And sadly, he took his own life a couple of years later and passed away. But yeah, Brad Delp.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are on the radio, I am speechless.
I should have left that as a hidden gem.
Oh, man. Brad Delp.
I know. It's funny because he said, yeah, I remember distinctly, because it was all Beatles songs. They're a Beatles tribute act, a really good one too. And this little room in this bar in Boston. And he said, good evening, everyone. Just want you to know that I won't be playing any Boston songs. And we thought, well, yeah, fair enough. I guess. He says, don't ask for any. It was a great night. So, yeah, that's my list. Have you gone for then, Brian?
I'm going with Cornell. It's probably not who you thought I was going to go for, but Chris Cornell just as a I'm looking at Ronnie James Dio and I'm looking at Cornell and I'm drawn to Chris. There's something about Chris Cornell's vocal and front. You talk about frontman singer, and his vocal was just amazing. As was Ronnie James. But this is my band. I'm putting it together. I'm going with Chris Cornell. What about you?
That's a great shout. I mean, yeah, fantastic singer. I have to admit, I was so pleased to have seen him. Saw him a couple of times actually. Saw him at Hyde Park in a solo capacity. When he brought his kids on stage, it was really cute.
All right.
I seen him with Soundgarden as well. But yeah, fantastic singer. I mean, if you're going to put anything on the list, something like Jesus Christ Pose, Black Hole Sun, it's just amazing singer. And anything from Audio Slave, of course.
Yeah.
So who have I gone with? Well, it was a ridiculously tough choice, of course. But you mentioned him, and he's got to be worthy of inclusion in any band. He's the great Ronnie Dio, who, as I said earlier, I saw at his first ever British gig with Dio, with his solo act, including the great Sir Vivian Campbell, of course, that we love. But yeah, Dio, just an incredible singer, probably one of the greatest rock voices ever, and in my opinion, probably the greatest American rock voice, from Rainbow, Black Sabbath, of course, through to his solo career. Such an amazing canon of work. But yeah, so my singer would be Ronnie James Dio. So let's recap then, Brian. So yes. Who's your, let's go from back to front, drummer, bass, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, and singer. I want you to run through your band members and tell us the name.
Okay. For my American band, on the drums, I have Mr. Vinny Appice. On the bass guitar, I have Mr. Billy Sheehan, good singer. Mm-hmm. I have on rhythm guitar, I have the wondrous Izzy Stradlin. I have on lead guitar, Mr. Edward Van Halen. And on lead vocals, I have Mr. Chris Cornell. And the name of my band is is Grand Funk Mail Road.
Very good. Very good.
I tried. It was better than the last time.
That's good. That's good. I like it. Right. So for me, I've gone on the drums, Dave Grohl. On the bass guitar, Dave Grohl. Remember him? From them Quicker Vultures. So on the drums, Dave Grohl. On the bass guitar, Michael Anthony. Rhythm guitar, James Hetfield. Lead guitar, Nuno Bettencourt from Extreme. And singer is Ronnie Dio. And the name of the band is Aero Guns Talica. Coming soon to the Dog and Duck in Milwaukee. Can you picture this scene? The sports bar. Yeah, the Dog and Duck. It's a sports bar in Milwaukee, the Dog and Duck. And they'll be set up under the, not under the darts board, under the TV show and the baseball.
Oh man, do you know what I tried to do to give myself inspiration for the name of a band? I googled, you know the way you can do random name generators.
Oh yeah.
So I put my name in and tried to do it. It was pants. Some of the names I was coming up with. So I'm so pleased that I came up with a less pants name of Grand Funk Mail Road.
It's because they did. We're an American band, of course. Great song.
There was method in my madness.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, it's good. Right. And that's a bit of fun. So let's commemorate the forthcoming American Independence Day celebrations, 4th of July.
Yep.
And hello to all our American listeners. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your 4th of July celebrations.
Yes. Excuse for us to have a beer as well too.
Exactly. Yeah. And right, so that brings us to Hidden Gem time. Loving that jingle. Every time I do it, I love it even more. So,
well, at least there's one of us loving it.
Yeah, that's very kind of you.
Sorry, you and Will. Will loves it as well too. Hello, Will.
Yeah, a lot of people like it. In fact, as I said before, people have been sending me versions of themselves singing it, which I think is sweet, in a Frank Sinatra style.
Wouldn't that be fantastic if we had if we could ask our listeners to do a video of them going Hidden Gem time, and we could add their vocal into our show.
I like that. However, I do like it. No,
yes.
I
but it's
like
yours.
It, so.
It's your thing.
No, I like it. So yeah, if everyone feels so inclined to record themselves singing Hidden Gem time, and post it to us or post it on Facebook, we'd love that. However, I must add, and you know what's coming next, Brian.
Yeah.
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition.
We're not looking for. We're not going to vote who's the best one.
No.
All that.
No.
So just because you know why.
It's a way of getting our audience and our listeners to be part of the show.
Audience participation.
If they want to sing the jingle, they could be part of the show, but they get no money for it. There's no budget.
No. What's that price? No budget, no prize. Of course, as we all know.
Exactly.
One day there might be.
Okay.
But not at the moment.
So it's been.
If you want to tweet it to us at FTAT Pod, I'm not sure that's even possible, but who knows? Right. So Hidden Gems. Right. Yes. What have you got for us this week?
Well, so one of my favorite bands. I do. You know me. I do like a bit of prog.
Yes.
Prog rock is good. So I was heading down to Englandshire on Friday.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
So yeah, I was. I went down to England to watch England play in Scotland in the soccer or football.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought Prog magazine for the train journey down.
Okay.
And there was an article about one of my favourite bands. And one of my favourite bands is It Bites. And It Bites are not allegedly, they are getting back in the studio and they are going to be recording a new album with John Mitchell. And it's hopefully going to come out quite soon, which would be great. And it just got me thinking about I love It Bites. And I would like to share a Hidden Gem album with our dear listeners, all 12 of them. And it's an album that was released in 1988. And it's an album called Once Around the World. It's their second album. It's got some stonking tunes on it. The big single off it was Kiss Like Judas. They also had a single called Midnight, and there's a great track on it called Old Man and the Angel. However, the title track of the album itself, Once Around the World, is 14 minutes and 46 seconds long. It is humongous. Prog-tastic.
Prog-tastic indeed.
Prog-tastic indeed. And it was, it is just, it's a great album. And obviously it was the original lineups. Francis Dunnery was in the band. To me, it's the pinnacle of It Bites' career. It just got me thinking with the new album that was coming out. And I would like to put forward as my hidden gem album, the stupendously talented It Bites. And we all know them from Calling All the Heroes, you know, which was
a good tune.
It's a good tune, quite poppy, but not very representative of how the band, progressed. So my hidden gem for this episode, on episode 15, is It Bites, Once Around the World. Matthew, what about you?
That's good. Well, I don't know about it, but I'm like most of our listeners, I know that Calling on the Heroes, but yeah, good shout. So over the course of the last 14 episodes, once or twice, I mentioned a certain band called Diamond Head.
Who?
No, not the Who. Diamond Head. Now, for those who don't know, probably my favourite band of all time. I was talking to one of our friends, one of our listeners. He said, why don't you just do a Diamond Head album as your hidden gem? Just do it. And I said, yeah, good shout, John. So
I'm texting John now.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Death and Progress, the Diamond Head comeback album from 1993. It's 40 minutes of absolute gold. And interesting facts.
Okay.
Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath plays on a song called Star-Crossed Lovers of the Night, which is a great song. Dave Mustaine, who historically is a big fan of Diamond Head, plays on a song called Trucking. Mm-hmm. But the album is 10 songs, it's 40 minutes, it's just pure gold. There's a great song on it called Run, which really should have been a hit, because it's a really commercial rock single. So my hidden gem this week, I've left it to episode 15 to bring in Diamond Head, but I'm going with Death and Progress from 1993. There you go.
Fabulous. And hello, Brian Tatlier, if you're listening in. Your boy did well. Episode 15, and we now have some Diamond Head. Do you know what?
I met Brian Tatler a couple of times, actually. Yeah. And I must tell you this story because it allows me to do my Brian Tatler impersonation. And someone said to me, why don't you do more impersonations? I said, well, yeah, I will. I'll try when the time arises. And the time is now. So we went to a gig a few years ago, and Brian Tatler was in the audience, was walking through the audience before the gig before they started. And a few friends of mine said, look, it's Brian Tatler. Can I have a chat? So I said, okay, fine. So I went over to Brian Tatler. I said, hi, Brian. Nice to see you. I'm really looking forward to the gig tonight. I said, I love the new album. He said, thanks very much, mate. What are your favourite songs from it? I thought, oh, no, I didn't realise it was going to be a test. But luckily, of course, I'd listened to the album. I said, well, I really love All the Reasons You Live and a song called Silence. He said, thanks very much. We're not playing Silence, but All the Reasons You Live is in the set. So enjoy the gig. And off he went. And not that I remember every single kind of syllable of that conversation, but it was lovely. And he's a great, underrated guitarist. But yeah, so there you go. That's it. Episode 15. Done.
Boom.
Dusted.
Exactly.
All over.
Live. In the now.
Live. No edits whatsoever. And it's been great. So as we always say, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it. We always say that, but we really do. Please get in touch, Facebook or Twitter at FTATpod. And we will see you all for episode 16.
We will indeed. Good to see you, mate.
You too.
All right. Take care, everybody. Rock on. See you later. For Those About to Pod, We Salute You is a Mealy Rogers media production. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.